Hello, and welcome to Creators in Conversation, Our Homes, Our Stories. I'm Mulaney Barnett, a visual artist and the founder of the Black Artists and Designers Guild. This weekend, we launched Obsidian House, our virtual concept house for the modern, multi-generational Black family of 2025. The project showcases 23 badge members, a distinguished international group of Black creators, including fine artists, architects, and interior designers. Each space in this home is designed to honor the cultural traditions of the global Black diaspora. Aesthetics have long been signifiers of aspiration, identity, and solidarity. In the face of this global pandemic, many people have realized the power of intentionally creating dwellings that offer inspiration, respite, and ancestral resonance. This edition of our Creators in Conversation series, Our Homes, Our Stories, features designers and scholars talking about the transformative power of Black aesthetics in home settings. I'm thrilled to welcome our moderator, arts and cultural leader, Jessica Stafford-Davis, founder of the Agora Culture. Through her company, Jessica supports fine artists of color and collectors through educational programming, art salons, and the annual Art on the Vine Fair in Martha's Vineyard. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica.
Thank you, Mulaney. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. How are you today?
So I'm very excited to have this conversation, our homes, our stories, and let's jump right in and introduce our panelists. First, we have Jay Joseph. Jay Joseph is a cultural producer and entrepreneur working in visual arts, film, and multidisciplinary platforms. He connects the traditional and experimental art worlds through art advising, brand collaboration, events, and strategic communication. Joseph commits to representing artists and clients honorably and honestly, refining but not replacing their messages. He caters to private sector clients in art, entertainment, fashion, publishing, and real estate. Welcome, Jay.
Hello.
Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Michelle Joan Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson is a curator at the Smithsonian Institution, National Museum of African American History and Culture, where she is working to expand the museum's collections in architecture and design. In 2018, she served as lead organizer for the museum's 3-day symposium, Shifting the Landscape, Black Architects and Planners, 1968 to Now. In 2019 through 2020, Wilkinson was a Loeb Fellow at Harvard Graduate School of Design. Her ongoing research project, V is for Veranda, about architectural heritage in the Anglophone Caribbean, has been presented to international audiences in Suriname, England, India, and the United States. Wilkinson's most recent work explores issues of representation in architectural renderings. She holds a BA from Bryn Mawr College and a PhD from Emory University. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Jessica. Hi.
Finally, we have General Judd. General is a Brooklyn based interior designer along with his wife, Cristina. He is co founder of Me and General Designs. The full service interior design studio's work is rooted in minimal essentialism, rich hues, and bold textures. The firm strives to develop interior environments that elevate the human spirit while also creating bold, one of a kind products which balance beauty and functionality. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited to have this conversation with you today. And when we think about the Obsidian Virtual Concept House, that is looking at Black homes in the future in 2025. But our conversation today is going to reflect on the past. And I thought it was only fitting to start from the beginning, your beginnings. So I wanted to know, when you think back at your family home, could you share a little bit about its aesthetic. And let's start with Michelle, then General, then Jay.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, I guess. Um, my family home, I would say the aesthetic has been one of lots of layering and texture. So I was born in Brooklyn, but I spent the first couple of years of my life in Guyana. And so there was sort of, kind of a tropical indoor outdoor aesthetic where you could move really easily between a space like the veranda and the inside. And it was also a house that was designed by my grandfather. And so there was a sense of ownership that I had in that home. And then when I came back to the States and lived in a much smaller apartment in Brooklyn, I kind of, I guess I brought that sense of ownership with me. But what I remember the most are the lace curtains. And in fact, I'm sitting here in my aunt's bedroom. My aunt passed away earlier this year, but the lace curtains are still here. The floral prints. We were a family that, kind of like that Zora Neale decorate the decoration aesthetic. So everything was kind of richly layered, very sumptuous. And so that was the origin of me beginning to think about what spaces looked and felt like.
Nice. General?
I'll say that I grew up in North Carolina. So coming from a Southern family, in a very close-knit family, I spent a lot of time at my home and at my grandparents' house. It was sort of that my grandmother's house was sort of the anchor house. So there was a lot of back and forth. And growing up, there was just the common living areas of for a Black family at the time, and the bedrooms, colorful. What I remember most of the home was sort of the smells of the house, and cooking, and the sort of type of cooking that went on in the house, with layers of just years of there was always the picture of Martin Luther King, and the praying hands, and the Encyclopedia Britannica collection, and things like that. And the shag carpeting. I remember our house, we had shag carpeting because my mother would have me vacuum every Saturday. So it was just the separate rooms, and primarily the kitchen and sort of the dining room, the area that was sort of set for us to gather and to be together is kind of what I remember mostly about that.
This all sounds very familiar. Jay, would you mind sharing with us as well?
Absolutely. Growing up, I grew up predominantly with my grandparents, and so I spent most of my time with my grandparents. And my grandfather actually built the house, as well as he built several other homes that my other family members had lived in, that came over from Trinidad, as well as my family in the Midwest. They all sort of like came together in one space. And so growing up, specific things I can remember is definitely the Encyclopedia Britannica collections. We had that as well. I think we still have a few of those in the house. And then also being surrounded by like keepsakes and pillows and different things that like my grandparents would get on their travels when they would go to like Israel, like every year. They would visit some random part of like either Africa or Israel, and they would come back and bring all of these things that they found. And also too, I also remember having lots of photography books and boxes of photos, because my family's really big on photos. And so we would have these boxes that had like all these different photos and Polaroids and tons of cameras, because my aunt, who I kind of grew up as my sister, we used to take photos of everyone. And that's how we sort of like have documented our family throughout the years. So that's something that really sticks with me, is like having access to those photos, and those photos providing like a vivid imagination and imagery of even my childhood, and or people before me, great grandparents or great great aunt, uncles that you may not have known, but still we have photos of them. So that's one thing that really I also implement into my own space is, having these boxes of things, or either photography books, things that matter to me. So
thank you. I was sitting here reflecting while hearing, it's interesting, everyone's from a different geographical space, but hearing the lace curtains or hearing about the Encyclopedia Britannica or the photos upon photos, it's very reminiscent of my own story. So it's really interesting how that's very connective. While you may have touched on this slightly moments ago, I wanted to know, in your adult home, how has the aesthetic or the intention been connected to your family home? And let's start with General.
I have to say that it would be, as Jay said, it's the photos. You know, I have my kids. I have two daughters and my wife. We put up photos. We've got sort of do it in an arts form, which comes from the same that my grandparents' house and my house also. There was always a wall of photos to sort of show the grandparents and graduations and aunts and uncles and things like that. It's sort of reminiscent of what Mulaney has done with the Obsidian House with the legacy wall. It was sort of that idea that we had, where it was, it was just your history was on the wall. Things that you had done and family members that you didn't know, which goes hand in hand with how I live today, where we have. We've actually blown up larger than life black and white images of our daughters that we use, and that's really important because it'll be a time in their life, and we'll pass that down to them, and we'll change photos throughout. But now that we've got all these electronics and things where we can store all of the information, because I'm sure we all got thousands and thousands of images and pictures, but I think those images are really special, I think, to every family, to be able to look back, because you want to be able to share that at some point. And that is what I think. I'm looking at some photos now of which is really important to me in my family and the aesthetics of how we live today. And I'm here in Brooklyn. But I've brought my southernness and that thing, which is my connection to all of that.
Jay?
Yeah, so since I already spoke about the photos, I wanted to go to texture and talk about texture, because growing up, there was always like seamstress around me. So, someone was making curtains, or someone was making a quilt or pot holders and things of that nature. And especially my grandmother, like, she's known for making like either like elaborate like quilts or, just like these intricate like pot holders or whatever. And so I've incorporated a lot of that in my home, like within like having like, a floor pillow that is maybe like satin, and then on top of it, it's like some like mohair situation, and then it's like paired with like a Mickalene Thomas like what is that? It's a like a coverlet that Mickalene Thomas designed. So I throw all these different things together in terms of texture, because I like also different feelings, because I think it's a feeling of like nostalgia of like, falling asleep on your grandmother's sofa, or, things like that. So yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, sure. I can. That just brings back a flood of memories. As you were talking, I was thinking about, yes, I saw someone put like the plastic couches. So we had like the plastic couch with the crushed velvet ivory underneath. And that was a couple of years. And then years later, you got rid of it. And it was like a different style almost, the texture. So texture was very important for me as well. again, to my aunt, she was a dressmaker, and my mother and my aunt lived together their whole lives. And my mother worked in the garment district. She worked at a company that made prints. And so they were always giving her fabric and bringing home prints. People were always coming to the house for my aunt to sew for them. And so we would always had this kind of array of different types of like taffeta and poly this. And I remember when rayon was really popular. So that aesthetic of knowing materials, not like knowing it from scientifically, but knowing it just kind of like viscerally, because we talked about these things about at dinner table, like what's popular now. So I feel like I inherited that. And many years ago, I curated an exhibition called Material Girls. And it was really about, it wasn't about fashion, it was really about artists using materials and in really kind of inventive ways. But a lot of that inspiration came from growing up in that house where all these materials were around me, and now working as a curator and thinking about how artists practice. Being a dressmaker is very different from being like a contemporary artist that works with volcanic stone. But there was a kind of through line that I could see there. And even thinking back to like Alice Walker's writing about kind of the ways our foremothers have been artists, but they haven't always had the avenues to do that. And so in my own home, I'm not as, I've kind of pared back, I try to have some layering, but I think also having a lot of it growing up has made me want to be a bit more, not minimal, but just a bit more balanced than what I had experienced before.
Yes. And I know Jay and Michelle, you've touched a little bit on how your family home has made its way into your professional career. And I wanted to pose that specifically to General, and then allow you both to come back and add additional context.
So yes, I would say I live, as Michelle said, a more minimalist way, the way that my parents designed. It was sort of, the couch, the two chairs, and my mother was sort of guided me into the design industry with her dreams and aspirations. She would always, look at all these amazing magazines of how she wanted to live, and what her aspirations and dreams were for the kind of home that she wanted to live in. And so I took that on with her and sort of divulge into those magazines and that sort of decorative idea myself, which was a big thing for me. And later becoming a designer along with my wife in our company. It's sort of a throwback to seeing that people of color, how we dream of getting to this place, and it's what like Obsidian House. And I remember when we first started on Obsidian House, and I was like, this is, what Nina and Leighton designed, this amazing place for us as designers to be able to throw in our ideas and dreams into this space. And it threw me back to when I first started out with my mom, looking at these, House Beautiful magazines and this sort of thing, and say, that's how I want to live. And so the Obsidian sort of threw me back to that and say, hey, it's full circle. This is how we all should live. So, so that's my connection to that.
And then Jay or Michelle, did you want to share a little bit more about how your family home has made its way into your professional career, how it shows up? Michelle or Jay?
I think that what my comment about Material Girls kind of sums it up. It's always with me. I think as a curator dealing now, particularly with architecture and design, I realize that, I get to have conversations like this, but it also connects me to the histories that all of you have had. And so I do find that there are similarities between, a lot of the people I interview or collect from for the museum. So I just feel lucky to be able to bring that part of me and to able to almost use it as a point of connection with others. So it's been a blessing.
And then Jay, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I think that for me, how I see it, that it best plays out into like my current life is all the conversations or the dinner parties and the sort of like our house was actually called a gathering place. I don't know if it was because of the size of the home or whatever, but my entire life, and my cousin is in the chat right now, but it was called the gathering place. And my grandmother and my grandfather, they always hosted people. If someone needed like advice on where their children should go to college at, and they would have them over for dinner, and my grandmother and my grandfather would talk to them about financing it or how to purchase a home, and they would have these dinners and these talks, or even like folks from the church that they attended like would come over and talk about how to like better themselves, whether it be with your credit or if there's, what jobs are available. There were all of these different conversations that sort of curated, as well as like matchmaking. So, and I think that those sort of like curated conversations and communications, the intrinsic part of who I am, as many people would say, a dot connector. So,
it's really interesting now we are in this space because of COVID and the pandemic, where we're spending a whole lot of time in our homes, and our homes are turning into places where we now live, work, school our children in some cases. And with the more time that we're spending in our homes, I was wondering, have you found this additional time in your home has revealed to you the need to want to update your space, have a more intentional connection to your space, your story, your family story? And General, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I would say that this time has been getting back to what I feel that humanity needs to get back to. When I think back a time, as we were touching on growing up, the amount of time that we would spend with families, and now with technology has sort of pulled us away from gathering and being together as much. There's times where people and families get together and there's a device at the table and someone has to do something else, and we're sort of always on, and we're always having to answer something or immediately. And I think this time for me and my family has been really special to sort of pull back because of the pandemic, but also to be thankful for this time, to sort of look within and to sort of take life and the things that are essential and that are needed in all of the excess that you find yourself gathering over the years and time, and to sort of look at those things and take it out and keep what's necessary for your life and for your family. And in the end, it's all about love, and it's all about family, and it's all about being together. And so I will say that we've sort of done that, and even with spaces that we've have, because we sort of are not in our studio and we're working from home, and the kids are here in school and we're schooling them, and there's a college student. And so it's, it is a lot to do, but we're together and we appreciate that because there are times where you don't get that time because we are so busy. And I'm hoping that we will do the same. We will keep those elements that are special, even when the pandemic is over, that we still can hang on to that part, to be together and to slow down. And we've done that, and sort of we've changed spaces where that we've got more workspaces in the home to be able to work from home, and it's okay. And yeah, and home, we realized that home is our sanctuary, and always has been. But I think that with time and with, like I say, with all of the elements of technology has kind of pulled us back from that. And I think this was a time for us to get back together and be more together.
No, that's very interesting. I think you're right. This time has caused us to slow down and to look at what is important. Michelle, would you like to also share?
Yeah. I think for me, it's been really like practical also. I live in a fairly small, I would say 700, if that much, square foot apartment when I'm in DC. And that's not really a lot of space for when you're in a pandemic. I do, it's my own space, but having to now bring work into the home, like most of us, you have some books around. It might be the things that you want to just take a light look at over the weekend or like curl up in bed with. But I had to essentially go to my office and pack boxes of things that files and books, and then bring them into this relatively small space that, believe me, had a lot in it already. I don't say minimalist, I just say it's more minimal than, my family's spaces have been. And so that was actually like it was exciting to think about how to reshape it, but it was also a little nerve-wracking because it was limited. And one of the solutions I found was that there's a kind of a door that, it's not a pocket door, I'm not sure what you call it. It just opens and closes like this in front of between the kitchen and the living room. And so I made a decision that whenever that door is closed off and you can't see the kitchen, then the dining room table is my office, is my desk. And when the door is open, it's a dining room again. It was just like, I had to do some mental things to make that separation, And so like when I open it for lunch, then I'm at my house. When I close it and I'm back at work, it's my office. But one of the things that's been really fundamental for me and that I have learned about myself, through living in different spaces, is that sky is really important to me. And so even though my space is small, I have really an unobstructed view of the sunset, the western sun, the sun setting in the west. And that's been kind of like a saving grace, because in the madness of everything, you just look out and you see really the rest of the world, and you get connected again. So it's not just what's the interior, but what you're able to engage from the outside and inside. And so I think a lot of that, again, goes back to the childhood that I remembered so fondly.
Oh, thank you. I was thinking about connection. It's so interesting that now, yes, we are in this space where we have to isolate, and it is a great time to connect with the family in your home. But I think it also is a space where you realize how essential it is for us to connect on a wider level, and how we're all connected and we all need each other. And so no, that's what was bringing up when you were sharing. Jay, would you like to share?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to two different points. One, first is connection. I've found myself oftentimes being in the kitchen and also on Zoom or either Google Duo with my cousins and siblings, and like sharing what we're cooking for the day, or meal prepping, all of those things, a lot more than before, of course, because everyone's at home. So that for me is I don't know, I feel like that's brought us all closer together, just having that connection, even though it's virtual. And then in terms of the use of space, I had this Moroccan rug that I felt like I paid quite a bit of money for it. And I was like, okay, I'm an adult and I need to make a decision whether I'm going to keep the rug or not, because I felt like being home, there was so much traffic going over the rug, because I'm like, I'm working from home. And so there's a lot more traffic of me walking over this rug. So I'm like, call my mother and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I need to make an adult decision, but I need to ask you, like, is it wise for me to like get rid of this rug? And she was like, change is good. Switch up your space. Get rid of the rug. She was like, move some things around. She was like, you'll even feel you'll feel that it's different in there. And so I did that, and it's allowed me actually to even make better use of that particular room that rug was in. So it's made me appreciate those like small observations.
We have to love the wise wisdom from our elders.
Listen,
Right on time.
right on time.
Right on time. So as we think about the home, and I love hearing the stories, now I would love if you have an object in your home that has some history or a story that you would like to share with us. And let's start with general. Do you have an object you'd like to share?
Yes, I have to say that the object, as you see on the screen, is I've got this. It's called Swickboard, which is a surfboard sound system that we created. My company, me and General Design, and it came from a love of the ocean. I grew up in North Carolina, and my wife is from Chile, so we both have this connection to the ocean. And I had friends that would surf, and and I love the shape and the style of the boards and the things. And so I was into music. I was a musician, and I came up with an idea to combine the two elements, which is what you see here. And as you can see, the one board is painted by a Nigerian artist, Laulu. And the crazy thing is, during the pandemic, I sort of did some searching in my family history, because I didn't know what my connection was and where I'm from, and I found that I am primarily Nigerian, and it was eye-opening. And so now I'm sort of on this path, and as you can see, even in the picture, the artwork on the other side is the Nigerian art. We use the same artists, and there's a connection. But this Swigboard, we're going to pass this down to my daughters. It's something that we created, and it's something that they will connect with us, because we travel. They love the ocean and swimming and surfing and that sort of idea. And it's something special to me and my family. I don't have many. The only sort of heirlooms I have from my family are the photos that we said before. And I think there's a few small things. I think I actually have my mother's family Bible from when we were kids. Sort of one thing that I have. But this element here is the one thing that will connect my family, my immediate family, and I hope that our daughters, the one board is in my daughter's room, and we'll just keep passing that down. And I think it's important to have a connection to something. And this is our object. It's very different and very unique. And I think that you can create your own legacies, and you can create your own history. And I think that's really important to us all.
No, certainly. I love the thought of legacy and connection and passing down history. And I loved how it's connected to the elements of the outdoor surfing, water, and music, and your Nigerian heritage all in one element. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great piece. It's it's Wi-Fi connectivity. It's powered by Sonos. We've it was just one of those ideas, and my wife Cristina, when we first decided to do this, it was just an idea that I'd had in my head for years, until a client said, "Hey, I want something unique." We came up with this idea, and she was like, "Let's make it." We did, and we love it, and we're gonna just keep pushing it. And like I said, we'll work on different art and artists, but the one that we love is the one that is, like I said, is done by our friend Laulu. The art is just says a lot about us. He sort of personalized it. He's got the palm tree, from my wife's Chilean heritage, and it's got the drums for me and the music. So it's really connected to us, and we definitely will pass this down to our family.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Next, Michelle.
I love the piece, General. Yeah. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you so much.
This is my living space, and the object that I wanted to share with you all is the chair. So you can see it a little bit better in the detail, more detailed photograph on the right. But its history begins with me, so to speak, and it has a history of its own production. It's a chair by Ben Goods, and I remember seeing it at a store in DC. I looked at the price and I thought, I don't know, I kind of stalked it and looked for other chairs that were similar, but they didn't give me the same effect that seeing this one gave me. And so I saw it on sale about 2 months after I first spotted it and decided I needed to have it. And, going back to, Jay talking about like what things cost, and, you go through that because I don't have limitless funds, but because that chair it's a captain's chair, it's gold, but it's also, you can see right through it. And for my space, it was just ideal because it actually becomes just an object, a work of art that I can enjoy. Definitely I can sit in it, it supports, it's great for that. But I can sit across from it, which is where my couch is, and look out the window and look at the chair, but also look through it. And for me, vision is really important. A previous apartment that I lived in had a lot of trees around it. And while, trees are beautiful, I realized that they clouded my actually ability to see, to envision. And so being able to look at the chair and look through it has been kind of magical because it's inspirational, but at the same time, my ideas can go beyond what's in the space. So that is the kind of history of what I've made of the chair. I don't know where it'll go after me, but it brings me great joy. Someone commented on the table. I found that at a thrift store about 15 years ago, and it's come with me to every place. So my aesthetic is more in line with that than the florals that I grew up with. So you get a little bit of it here.
Nice. Finite resource is a real thing. So I love this, and I love art, functional art, if you will. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Michelle. And next we have Jay.
Yes. So, and speaking of functional art, I chose these two pieces because they go back to speaking about keepsakes or places where you can like hold mementos, hold memories. And I remember growing up, like having boxes all around our house, and some of those boxes would have like either in the kitchen they would have like recipes that
So unfortunately, Jay was breaking up, but while we wait for him to rejoin, Jay, I'm sorry, do you want to just follow back up and take 1 minute and then we'll move to Q&A? So we only have a few more minutes left, and we have a few questions that I wanted to field from our audience. The first one is, how fundamental has expressing and welcoming Black identity been in development of your homes, spaces, and projects? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I hear it myself twice. I was just gonna say that as someone who from very young, I remember going to the public library in Brooklyn and going to what was called the Black interest section at that time, and reading Nikki Giovanni and like about Shirley Chisholm. I don't really even think about it anymore. It's just like what I bring and what I carry with myself. And so there's definitely some consciousness, but there's also just kind of like, it's in me. And so when I express myself, it's going to come out. I recall that at one point there were some EMTs in my apartment, and some things were going on. They were trying to make sure everything was stable. And I guess I don't know if they wanted to make some jokes or they were just looking at my things, and they said, "Oh, are you African?" And I thought, no, I wonder what made them think that. And then I am African, but not in the way that he was asking, right? And when I looked around, I was like, oh, he said, yeah, because this, and he just started pointing to all these things that led him to believe that. And so I think it's just sort of something that comes with who I am.
Jay, did you want to, Jay or General, did you also want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'll say that being African American for me and having multiple clients and sort of I get the idea sometimes being a designer, they sometimes your clients will assume that you design a certain way. And sort of, but I am always going to bring my Blackness through the door. That is who I am. But for me, and for my company and what we are, my wife being from Chile, we and myself, my experience in life is going to bring you good design, and my aesthetics are, if your project needs something from my culture and what I know of, I'm able to bring that, but I'm also able to bring you just good design. But I think that's something that we are dealing with right now, with Black Lives Matter and everything, to sort of get past these stereotypical ideas that everyone has, and so that we are able to be at the table and to get those jobs and say, hey, this person can do just a great job with design, and they can bring their multitude of talent to the table. That's what's important. And aesthetically for our home, we've got tapestries from all over the world that touches on our heritages, which is really important to be able to have those connections. And now that I'm realizing that I've got a Nigerian connection, of course, I'm going to go seek that out. And the more in depth that I can pull from, that will become a part of my life also, because that is very important because of my ancestors. That is the reason that I'm here. That is the reason that I'm in this country, because someone from there made it here. And it is important for me, and it should be, a part of my legacy to be able to make that connection and to tie that, so my kids will know and remember who and where they're from and what they're about. And I think that's the beauty of all of this.
No, thank you. Great points. And unfortunately, our time has come to an end. We could continue talking about this for hours, and I just really appreciate you taking the time. General, Michelle, and Jay, it's been wonderful. Thank you again to the Black Artists and Designers Guild. Make sure, if you have not already, you want to go and check out the Obsidian Virtual Concept House. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.